Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Luana Proença. I am a Brazilian improviser that lives in Portugal. I'm here doing my PhD in theater studies, and I am studying improv. And to help me study and talk and think and listen to other voices, we're going to have this table with amazing guests to talk about our director role as improvisers. Because as improvisers, we act, we write, and we direct at the same time during the improvisation, right? So let's talk about this third side of us, and how that works. Not necessarily, it's not about the director of the show, the person that directs the show, but the improvisers themselves. Um, and so, as our amazing guest for today, we have Aree, that he's a Norway-based improv teacher, director, and performer for Indonesia. Ha! He is the founder and artistic director of the Impro Nuf. I just learned how to pronounce that. Um, it's Norway's most inclusive international improv community with over 1,000 members from 50 countries. And Aree believes in bringing the global voices to the improv stage. And in this new online era, he's teaching improv to every corner in the entire world.
I am loving this era. You can have improv everywhere in the world. We have a pretty international community in Norway, but now we can really reach out to the Philippines, to the Malaysia, to Peru. It's just everywhere, improv.
Yeah, and it's a really a warm community. I had the lucky luck thing in life to go there and teach and play jams with them and perform my solo. It was the last thing that I did before the pandemic on stage. So I have that close to my heart. So thank you, Ari, for being here. We also have Dawn McMillian from the United States. She started acting at 12. Through her career, Dawn was exposed to improv primarily as a tool for exploring script acting. However, since joining Unscrewed Theater, did I pronounce that right? Unscrewed? So good. Um, her house teams 3 years ago, Dawn has increasingly fallen in love as improv as its own glorious art form.
Yes, glorious. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to talk to other improvisers with different kinds of experiences to see what we can add. So thank you.
Yeah, and Dawn has this incredible project show that she talks with and improvisers. Aree also has that, so check them out because it's amazing, and maybe you can play with them as well.
Maybe.
And we also have Kasia Chmara.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kasia Chmara.
Kasia Chmara. I will pronounce the things. Okay, she's gonna
Don't
correct
worry.
all my words here because Polish is not a language that I can pronounce.
You're perfect, Luana. You're perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so she's an actress and teacher and performs with numerous improv groups, such as the popular
Wymywamy z Bydgoszczy.
See, my pronunciation is
Absolutely.
And she's part of the European Improv Project Ohana, and it's an amazing project with a lot of amazing improvisers. Mm-hmm. She's an artist director of the Improdome Festival, and she's only one Polish improviser who take part in she's the only one Polish improviser who takes part in the European Improv Project organized by Die Gorillas Theater, Our Lives. Mm-hmm. Currently, she's doing her PhD in creating characters on script play through improvisation techniques in the National Film and Theatre School in
Łódź,
Poland. Yes. And also she teaches theatre improvisation in acting department.
Yes.
Amazing people. So thank you so much for being here as guests for this talk. People that are watching us here on Zoom and also on YouTube, thank you for being here. We're going to have, in the end, the last minutes of the talk, moment for you to ask questions or make comments. I also want to thank you so much, our technical crew, the technicians that are here, improvisers, technicians, Davi Salazar, Henrique Sereno, and Massa from Brazil. And yeah, so let's start this talk.
Yay.
For those that just got here, we're talking about our director role as improvisers on the point of view of the improviser, not the director of the show, that we can talk about that as well, but our focus is the improvisers themselves. And our first question topic is, how do you, as yourself, see this director side of the improviser at the time of the performance? How is it done, and what is important or not important at all?
So I will jump in first. I think that one of the reasons I am so enamored of improv as an art form is because of the opportunity to wear all of those hats at one time. You know, there's no abdicating your responsibility to someone else. You are the thing. You have to coach yourself. You have to direct yourself. You have to keep track of everything that's going on. And in particular with the director role, it's simultaneously holding who I am as a character, what I'm experiencing myself right now, and then that bird's eye view of what's going on this whole stage and how is the audience contributing to it. And so it's that paradox of being fully present in this moment while also having the ability to sort of lift above yourself and notice everything else that's going on. Particularly in the long form, I think you're picking up in the moment what your partners on stage are doing with you and keeping track of where the story is going. I improvise a musical, and you're like, okay, what story form are we doing here? And that's the director role, right? Just sort of peeking in there. At the same time, you're listening closely to, oh, what did my partner just give me? So I think it's that juggling act that makes it so challenging and so fun.
Yeah, I can add also to Dawn sentences that we as directors have a third eye who just, popping out and all non-stop just, watching and be aware of everything. But I also think it depends on the type of the dynamic group, because sometimes we are very equal with our partners on the stage, but sometimes we definitely kind of, know better, but obviously don't want to encourage whole stage and be the most important person because I'm a director. It's, I think, the most important job, that be aware of the dynamic of the group and be aware to not be so pushy, but be aware to direct gently, not like invasion person who just know the best because I'm a director. I know what this performance needs.
Yeah.
I will just copy my answer from Dawn because that's exactly it. I was a film buff before I was doing improv, and then a lot of people usually looks at the actors, right? The George Clooney's or the Michael Keaton's. I've always looked at film and the director side, and then I've always wanted to be the director instead of the actor. And then I found out improv, where you can be a director within the scene, and then it's not just you, but it's also a collaborative with the directors. Every other improviser is the director. I think that's really fantastic. And as an actor, you need to be feeling the scene. You have to be really in the moment and just like feel the scene. And the director, you sort of have to move out a little bit and see what the scene needs. What does the scene need? And that's a very selfless position, which I think is very, very important for the scene.
Yeah, if you think about what the word theater means, coming from the Greek, it's the place where you see it, from where you see it. So you're talking about the audience itself, the place of the audience. And if you think about any kind of theater, when you think about the director, you see the director in the other spot, right? Watching from the audience place. So when you say about like this attaching, like having this third eye, I see like because we are watching from the audience point of view, what the audience is catching and getting from what it's happening on stage. And I also like to what Kasia brought it out about, because it's not about controlling the show, right? It's not about dominating the show and be the director. It's about this collaborative issue that Aree brought, right? We are creating this together, but we are making choices. And are we seeing which direction those choices are driving us towards, right? This is an issue for me. It's being my PhD research, also because when I raise the question, what in improv makes me so curious or makes me also angry in improv, like something that I don't like, is when people say that I use improv as an excuse to do shitty things. And I'm saying shitty things is also because the person says, oh, yeah, it was shitty, but it was improvised. And one of the things for me has to do with this not wanted to take this responsibility from the show, for the show itself. As Dawn was saying, like, we cannot abdicate our responsibility. We are bringing these things on stage. It can be something that because of the spontaneously, that is the powerful thing. And we brought something for our systems. There are prejudice that have those own issues. But when they come, how are we going to deal with that? Or we're just going to ignore? And it was just a joke. So for me, the director side comes in that matter. Like, are you seeing what's going on? What are you going to do about it? What direction this car is? It's loose. We are going down on the cliff, and that is okay. That is a choice. Nice. Or should we just turn right just a little bit? Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I think we should, if we are directing, we should take a responsibility for that, because obviously, I don't know how it is in your country, but in my country, it's like usual. It's a very patriarchal still. This artistic vision of the director. Most of men are directors. So it's sometimes very hard for women to be a director. In improv, it's going better because of the big movement. Also in Poland, my first group is only women, so it's also nice. But anyway, we taking a kind of we taking I don't know how I forgot the name in English, the word. We take not like, for example, 1 month I'm directing, second month you directing.
Rotative.
Oh, thank you. Rotating stuff, yes, in directing, and this is nice because give us kind of bigger option, bigger view, and give you this responsibility. If I'm responsible for that month, I also need to be aware what I'm trying to sell, what I'm trying to give, what I'm trying to give to the audience. This is very important. Not, oh yeah, this is improv, oh whatever. No, we need to be aware that we need to be responsible.
Yeah, I'm really drawn to this conversation around responsibility, and I think it's becoming even more important as we are becoming more aware of the roles of oppression that we have been participating in. 20 years ago, you might have been able to go, oh, it was just improv, but you cannot tell me that you've been alive for the last year and a half and not learned a thing or two about the systems of oppression that are showing up everywhere, including on our theater stages. And so that notion that as the improviser, playwright, director, you have a responsibility to the vision of the whole theater that you're performing in that moment, and you have a responsibility to every other player on that stage, and you have a responsibility to every person in that audience to find a way of bringing your talent, your gift, your A game to the experience without undermining someone else's personhood and without undermining someone else's value. And I think that part of the conversation is getting more and more potent as more and more people are understanding that not only can they do something about it, but they must.
Yeah, and that goes for me also. Not we'll talk a little bit about the speech of the show, right? Not the speech of the character, but the show, what we bringing, and that can also be abroad for the theatrical choices that we make, like why we are always using chairs as the only element on stage. That is a choice. Can you see that that is a choice?
Yes,
Or
yes,
no, but
yes.
everybody always did that. That's improv. We always did that. Okay, and don't get me wrong, chairs help and chairs work. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying, like, are you aware that you're not doing mime all the time? You're actually using chairs, and that means something. That you also, because of that, maybe you can also use other elements, and that's not wrong. It's just be aware of our choices. Why you swipe the scene? Because that is an improv code and works. Yes, but why did you do that in this show? And why did you do it just once? Are you aware of your choices, artistic choices on stage, right? And how that also helps with the speech.
Yeah, I think improv is really interesting. Like what you say, Luana, is that we don't see what is the normal code and just follow through with that, but we can also entertain the ideas of, oh, this is the time we can break free out of these imbalances, oppression. So it can really have a tool to carry some social messages. Um, just, I mean, I'm already being like very grandeur about this. I actually think improv can be just like a banana wearing a hat, and it's all fun and games, etc. But also there are times where you need to be responsible for the voice that the show creates, right? And being the director is the way you can tweak it to have a message for the underprivileged to rise and have what would you call it, a release, yeah, a break free from the norm, the oppressive norm.
So one thing I want to call out here in the United States that happens a lot is that people wake up to, oh no, this has been an upper middle class white art form. We have to do something about it. So they'll bring in a woman and they'll be like, okay, done. And they'll bring in an Asian person. Okay, we did it. We're done. We checked off the box. That's all we have to do. No, Mizumi. You have to do more than that. And it's kind of like what Aree was saying, is that it's not enough just to have someone who looks a certain way on your stage and call yourself done. You have the opportunity, like you were saying too, Luana, it's like, well, okay, this is the way it has always been done. Has anyone stopped to ask if it needs to continue that way or what the justification for it is? And as you bring in people from different countries, different origins, maybe that person has a perspective that you've never heard before. But if you do not create a space to, as the other person on that stage, you're directing the scene too, right? We're all directing the scene together. If you don't create a space where someone can bring them their full selves to the experience, then you haven't actually accomplished anything. Right before we started sharing publicly, we were having this conversation about improvising in your second language. And I think we all agreed that everyone else on that stage with you, person improvising in your second language, has a responsibility to make it safe for you to improvise in your second language. And it's the same thing with other aspects of identity, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful, because when you realize it and you do something about it, it's also you're having a choice. You're creating a moment to, you're choosing to do that. So if I want to do the banana with a hat and I'm choosing to do that, that is powerful. And laughing is really we need to laugh, people. It's not about getting serious. It's about be responsible and be aware that that is a choice. And and I will deal with that choice. That's the responsibility of it. And what Don was saying, I think goes really well with what Kasia was saying about uh, control, and Aree about the collaborative thing. Because if I'm not giving space and listen and making safe, I am controlling. I am being the supremacy voice in that
Yes.
stage.
Yes.
Yes. But also, in the same time, I think we should, as a directors, challenge yourself and challenge our group. So not only think I'm the best, this is my vision, and you know, we also need to be reflective. Obviously, we sometimes there are some shows that maybe we going off and something is not going good, but that it's also nice to just, you know, after the show, just sit down and talk about that, what we can change or what we can work with to make this better, or to make this much more visible or much more interesting or much more challenges.
Yeah, but that's the taking the responsibilities, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it happened. And I was like, but it's improv. No, it happened. What? Now, what are we going to do about it? How we can, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree about being reflective and learning from one show to the other to become a better person. So I'll tell you like a sad, a hurt story. Where I was playing a scene, and then there was it was a bit of a sexist scene, and then you would have the audience was sort of egging it on to being sexist, because that's the character in just being sexist. And this was many years ago, and because we were feeling the urge of the audience being egging on, we played along with it. And then after the show, we were talking to ourselves, like, why do we need to go along with that? This is when we can stamp as a director, like, no, we're not gonna go there. We are not going to the normal path that has been broken for a long time, but we are going to explore paths that are actually less safe because it's less explored. Um, but it does take a lot of responsibility to do that, and then you have to learn, like, from show to show, how to steer the course. Yeah, that's it.
You know, I'm my day job, I'm a therapist, and I'm kind of drawn to this notion that we all have these different characters that play inside our minds. And on the one hand, it feels like the actor improviser is the little kid, and they need permission to just run free and play and just whatever feels good in the moment. And we need that director part of us to be the adult in the room. That's like, yeah, it might be fun to play, get the laughs from the audience because they're egging you on. But as the director, the adult in this head dynamic, I'm just going to rein you in just a little bit. I'm not going to stomp on your creativity. I'm not going to make you wrong. I'm just going to just say, you know what, let's just take that wonderful energy of play that you have, and let's just push it over here into a place that's a little more helpful to everyone that's involved in this experience right now.
You're Kasia, do you want to say something?
I just agree with Dawn, and I just said, but this is obviously you need to have incredible skills as well, because not everyone can do that, and this is a beauty of directing, that you have this kind of power of the child and yeah, the adult who is just gently guiding you on the stage to not make a harsh with your soul and your creativity. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's perfect, because that goes for a bridge for the next part. We can always come back to this part, but and I'm gonna put a pin on something that I have a show that it's half improvised, half scripted. Actually, it's a script show. Everybody knows all the lines, 1 hour and a half of the Peter Pan show. So, but we never know who is going to say which line and if I can steal the line for you. So it's improvised. It's an improvised game inside the play. And we do that because for me, the adult is the child that grew up. So we didn't kill the child. We're still the same we just grew up. So I want to have the playfulness inside we are always Peter Pans, we just have another other experience, and that's my perspective of it. Saying that, but it's that what Kasia was saying about it's really an ability, something that it's hard and right. You're saying something like that. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing you. And our next topic will be how do you perceive this in your training? How do you see how your training deal with this director side, and how you see that in improvisers in general, if we give that importance, if we train that, and how that appears in training.
So I can jump onto that. So I want to tell you a little bit about our community impreneurs, because I think it's interesting for the story. We have improvisers that come from a European theater where improv has a lot of director, and it's like Johnstone type of improv where there's improvisers and then there's a director, now do this, etc. And then there's another half of the community which are improvisers from the US, sort of IO type, where everyone has a lot of empowerment in directing for themselves. So when they merge, it's very interesting to see how the different training becomes. You would see the one that have been doing the Johnstone Theater improv would often have a very keen sense on the direction of the scenes, like what should happen to the scene next, what's the next beat in either a traditional story or a non-traditional story. And whereas the IO people are more very much in the moment, and it can go everywhere, and it's super playful. So I think there's like the two different styles are really interesting.
So I'm super curious about when you see those styles collaborating. What do you notice? What do you notice about how they do or don't learn from each other?
You would notice that the IO type of people were like, these are the, I'm gonna use your kid and adult analogy all the time, right? So the IO people would like, yeah, kids, we're gonna do the scenes, like banana in a hat again, etc. And sometimes the more direct, the more European theater would be like, this scene should have some sort of a message. So just like let's veer it just a little bit. So I think they both can combine in creating stuff and also making. I want to answer to the last one about making safe space. Like the kids can just like play around, and the adults would be like, okay, you can play around, but over here, away from the sharp objects, where you can really have fun.
That's really interesting. I also, it looks like you want to jump in there, Kasia, but I'm curious about, because the question was, how do you do training? And it seems like we should all swap. Like all of us little kids in the American system who are just like, doesn't matter what we do as long as it's fun, might benefit from, going to Norway or Poland or Portugal and being like, oh, what's this whole other way of being? And so that we can start to integrate the two systems into a whole new art form.
Yeah, for me that would be idyllic that we can do the both ways, like, because it's nice to find in your group this room to be like crazy, childish and free, and also have the time to dig deeper, like from my background, I'm from dramatic theater, so for me I really like the message. I like this kind of artsy stuff, like, for me it's I like digging with this, and I think that it's nice to do a side coaching maybe with your group if you are director, or maybe to give them notes if we're talking about some exercise, trying to do as well this both exercise to be crazy and fun, and also how to switch straight away to the drama type of improv. Why not? Yeah, I think lots of varieties. I think Aree, you want to add something?
Oh, sure. So I think, like, from a training perspective, the European improv theater type, it starts off with very much differentiating, these are the actors and these are the improvisers. And then as you train to get better and then you get direction from the scene, you start to take on the director role a little bit more, until at some point the director themselves vanish, because we don't need them anymore. People have already good directors. Uh, and then from the American type of improv that I've seen, everyone, play around a little bit, and then everyone sort of want to direct, pulling to here and there. And then as they progress, they share the director's role a little bit nicer to each other, so that it becomes something more coherent.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you're talking about tools and exercises as tools, it's Kasia also said in the beginning, the rotating, yeah, function, like, okay, because that we can practice. Me, like, if I direct the show, now we're talking about directing the show this time, but then you direct the next one and I go acting, but my eye is training by that moment and return. I used to teach directing at college, but it was an acting course, and we have one class about directing, one discipline about directing. And I remember my students coming like, now I finally gonna do my project, the project that I want. And I was like, first of all, there's something wrong there, because all the projects that you are should be projects that you want to be part of it in some kind of level, some kind of intensity, or like, and it's not when you're the director that you're going to do your project. That is a function, that is a job, that is not the project. Second of all, who you think that is going to win the fight between director and an actor? And they always answer the actor. Say, really? So if I don't agree and I don't want to do it, I can say yes to the director, and in the moment of the performance, I can do whatever I want, because there is no director that's going to make me do something that I don't want. But I'm afraid to get fired. Okay, but at the same time, I can, in a moment of the performance, not follow the director orders, because in that moment of the performance, I am there. I am
responsible
yeah.
for yeah.
So for me, I say, like, we are having this directing class during this acting course, 4 years of course for acting, so you can understand the directing point of view, and you can understand your responsibility as an actor in the show. And okay, so if you want to be a director, you do another course. This is an acting one that you want to learn the directing side.
You know what I'm really brought to mind about, I think a lot of us come from theater backgrounds, and I think one of the things that we can do as in training for improvisers is really just basic stagecraft. I think that gets skipped. And when you have a background in other kinds of theater or as a director, part of that bird's eye view is like, well, what does the stage look like? And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I get stuck in like talking heads standing facing each other sometimes too. Like, I definitely fall prey to that. But I think if we don't teach improvisers things like cheat out, think about the stage picture, use the whole stage, you can't be seen or heard from over here. And there's a lot of improvisational teaching that doesn't cover that at all. So maybe part of the training that we can do to develop that inner director is just basic stagecraft, your voice, your body, where you are on stage, and how to use the space that you're in. I just had that thought. I don't know if you guys have anything.
Yeah, I'm teaching that in Poland, like elementary acting technique for improvisers. I think this is very important because some of them have not acting backgrounds. Obviously, they're most of the IT people or from different areas in different areas, not only actors. So this is very important because some of them, they don't have this knowledge like we have about the stage, about typical which leg I should use first to go from the right or left side of the stage. This is for us it's just obvious, but for them it's absolutely, they sometimes don't have a clue. So I think this is very important, this basic craft. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I I think these basic craft, like this little miniature, is really nice to say how important it is. Because I think if you use the word director immediately, you would think like this big Stanley Kubrick director that just takes entire control of the scene, does it this way. But in improv, director can be just like the small things of just like stage picture, or even editing. Editing is directing, and a lot of people don't have the sense of editing, etc. Right? But that is definitely director.
But I also would like to add for you, Aree, that this role of director in improvisation, it's also important to deal with the musician and deal with the tech crowd. This is also very important to have this, again, bigger optional view, how to implement those parts to make this, nice, solid picture.
Yeah, because you're looking for the show as a whole, as an entire piece, right? And sometimes what I see, part of my question was also because I don't see we talking about it with our students, or as when I am a student, about that part. I see people giving you tips like, don't put your back to the audience. That's more a tip, a note, not those kind of why. Like we don't, sometimes people even don't say why you do that. I have an entire show that people are, most of the show with their backs to the audience because that makes sense for that show. That is a why that is happening. Because if you want to hide, giving your back to the audience can be a really good thing. So why those, you have those things? And I don't see that so much in the classroom, in improv classrooms, like thinking about those things, the theatrical things, the staging things, but like, because that is a choice and not a rule or a tip, so you can be better on stage. No, because you're constructing something, be aware of what is going on around you. Kasia.
Yes, but again, we're talking about idyllical stage, obviously, because most of us, I'm super lucky. We have a really professional stage for 260 seats and professional tech and etc. etc. But some groups are improvising in pubs or some underground places which don't have this depth of stage, and the people have a tiny space to perform, and sometimes it's so hard to teach them this theater crafts, because they don't gonna use it, because the stage is different. The stage is not like we dream of. Obviously, this is the.
I get that. For my reality in Brazil, the reality of not having a space to have to rehearse on the streets in a park at 11 p.m. and careful with the needles on the ground, that's part of my reality. So having a theater actually is a big deal. But that part of the craft, to understand more than use it, but to understand why, helps me with the other spaces, because then I like, okay, I don't have that, but like we are 5 people on a stage that just fit 2, go to the lower level, so the people there on, and we can make those choices because the space is what I am aware of. My space, I'm aware, and I'm aware why I'm making those choices, and that it's more about what I'm saying is more about the way of thinking, the learning process, and not necessarily the material, because that will change the reality for sure.
And I'm wondering too, if focusing on adapting and learning that director piece doesn't increase the amount of choices that you can make. Like Luana, you were just saying, like I can go to the lower space. So like if I know what I'm communicating when I play with a level, if I get down or up or turn my back, if I understand, because I have this little director information, what that is communicating, I've just broaden my level of choices, not only for how I can be as the improviser to my fellow stage members, my fellow improvisers, but to the audience. Like use the example of, if you want to hide, turn your back. Well, maybe that's something my character can do to communicate, I'm suddenly feeling ashamed, I'm going to turn my back. And because I know that, I know the why, I can implement that as an conscious artistic choice. So I think there's a level of expansion that we might be able to create by focusing on this little director piece.
I'm liking this so much.
Yeah.
And that point about tools. So I am gonna do a little merchandising here, but it's part of the thing. I wrote a workbook about our direction at stake. Directing is part of improvising, right? It's a book with exercises, but I wrote as part of my PhD in the meaning of trying to put together the ideas and the tools. And one of the things that I saw as tools was recognizing what you have and what's going on, the structures that we are repeating. Repeating is another thing, because repeating will give us I'm doing that because I learn and how they work, and I'm recognizing why I'm repeating. So that's the cycle of not just doing because it was done before, but I'm repeating because of this, I recognize. So these two tools together. And also opposite and balance as two tools that can help us to recognize, like, because if I'm seeing that, taking Dom's example, this scene was two talking heads look at each other. I just saw that. How I can change the dynamic of the show? Maybe I will play opposite. We're just gonna walk around the stage right in the next scene, and that's gonna be just to change the dynamics. And that is a director choice, seeing the opposite of that. To how can I change? Opposites can help you change that as tools to help people. Like, okay, but how can I make those choices? What I have on my tool belt to use it. Do you have anything like that as well, Kasia?
I just think this is a part of the exercise about rehearsals with our groups, that we trying to change these patterns, because all of us have these patterns, and all of us just going in the same way all the time, and it's hard to just change this pattern. And yeah, again, our job is to recognize those patterns and try to just, as you said, with this 11 make a 12, yeah, just do some different stuff. So give these challenges, give this different exercise who are not super comfortable, not for the group and not for myself as a director, but give us this opportunity to change ourselves, to make hustle, yeah.
I love, like, now we're gonna do this all the time.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah. I have a curiosity, Luana. I hope this doesn't take us too off track, but a conversation happened in one of the online groups, and I apologize to whoever had this brilliant question, because I can't attribute it to you right now. I will look it up, about how people assign characters to each other, and the tendency that we have to see someone like me and then, name me some very stereotypical African-American name, or to look at someone who has a very feminine presentation and it's obviously Christina. And I'm wondering if part of developing that director role is breaking out of the habit of, Aree has black hair, I'm going to give him a name that sounds Asian to me. And Kasia has brown hair, so I'm going to give her a white sounding name. Are you like playing with age, playing with gender, playing with race and orientation? Because what is the point of improvising something from the magic of our imagination if people are, I'm just going to be very blunt about it, they're like, oh, you're a hooker who likes to do rap music. Like, well, I could also be a bunny rabbit who speaks in a Polish accent, right? This is improv. We can do whatever we want, So I'm wondering if part of your work, Luana, yes, I'm giving you assignments, is to help people develop that director role and break out of that pattern of the first thing I think of when I see you is based on the system of oppression in which I have grown up. So I'm kind of curious about that conversation as well.
I'm gonna start, but please, Kasia and Aree, just jump in. Yes and no.
Make a choice.
Yeah, but it's about that. It's when you do that, you know that that is a choice that you're bringing. So that is a subject that, so you're not just doing because you always did. It's not just doing because it's, and I would say like because it's fun, that can be a choice. Okay, is a choice, but like why it's fun. You're raising those questions, those direct questions.
Yeah.
So when I give you this, like, you are a hooker that does rap, I am aware, I recognize where that is coming from, and I'm using that as a choice, and I'm responsible for that choice, and I'm gonna play with the choice, not just on like, and I think I'm not saying that it's about right or wrong. It's about being responsible. That you brought that. You're part of that. You are part of the issue. Really, right now, you're really part of it.
So
But
be
it's just
responsible
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah. And I think with that responsibility, people may, that's my hope, they will think more about those things before. So spontaneously, because spontaneously, I always use in quotes in improv, because what we bring spontaneously is actually things that we already have, that we already learn, because we improvise it from ourselves. I do this example all the time. I cannot put my leg behind my back. I cannot do that with my body. So I won't do that on stage, right? I don't have that. I won't do that on stage. I can do it with my arm and say that that is a leg, but it's my arm, is not my leg.
I'm
But I
pretty
have,
sure you did that move in Oslo,
I did, right?
leg
I
behind.
don't do it
It
anymore.
was a very acrobatic show.
I don't think I can do it anymore. Like, I'm not stretching so much. But anyway, so that's what I have. That's my body. That's my voice. That's what I can do. I improvise from myself. So I understand that. So when I bring something, I know that that's coming from me. So I'm gonna pay attention. I'm gonna educate myself. I'm gonna be better. So when spontaneous things come on stage, I will be better, or I can deal with that anyway, because shitty things will happen, but they shouldn't be shitty after that.
That's why I think the most important is communication and dialogue between or in your ensemble. This is very important because if you someone chose you as a director, you firstly, the most important, you're responsible, but also you need to listen. You need to listen and be aware of your partners. This is the most important. You just can't create your own vision and don't give a shit about your colleagues, So the communication and dialogue, it's super important. And I love this this with the improv, especially with improv, that after work we are meeting together, we talking together, we have the kind of life after improv, so we friends, we connected, we getting know each other, we know about our political issues, so we know about our kitchen, like Aree have this beautiful Facebook page, improv about food, so it's amazing. So it's I think this is the awareness, and make a bigger kind of optical vision about your partner, especially with your ensemble. I'm not talking about the festivals when you just jump on the stage with the person who you don't know, but especially when you work with your ensemble as a director, it's super important to know them as a human being. Communication.
Yeah, that's communication, the check-in as well, because the check-in is the conversation about that day, how people are. And like, I already did a play. It wasn't an improvised play, and it was really hard. Maybe if it was improvised, it would be easier. But my bus got stopped on the street, and 4 guys with a gun entered the bus, and I had to get in the theater like just I'm alive, and I had to do this play right now. It was an adaptation for theater from the Breakfast Club, the movie. and uh, and it was really hard for me to do the show. And that was a moment that I had to cry. My character had to cry, and then it was a really emotional. And I was really afraid to start crying and not stopping because I was still shaking from the. So like, if I open the door, can I close it today? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So having the conversation with the cast before, saying like, I'm not okay today. So, but I was a day that I didn't cry in the show, but it was an emotional scene anyway. But I had so much warm feeling with the cast, like they were there to jump in and do something if we needed. That it was not the best performance, but it was an okay performance. Like yeah, your ticket's safe. Like you'll be proud of your ticket. You buy your ticket. So those check-ins as well, because there are things that happen that day that is not the issue of the moment.
I jump again, but I just remind myself that also, again, with this responsibility as a director, sometimes people just implement this exercise that is really emotional and just deal with your private emotion, and they don't know how to take out you from this, and this is really dangerous for your partners, and you should be aware that if you implement some exercise who is very emotional, I don't know how to say in English, but is responsible for emotional stuff in your partners, you need to be aware, you need to learn how to take them out from this fantastic way, because otherwise you're gonna make a mess.
Yeah, thank you, Kasia, for that. There is the book that was an ebook. It's a free ebook that was written by the Feminist Pedagogical Laboratory La Outra Escena, and it's a questions for the name of the book that is in English, in Spanish, Catalan, Euresca, and Portuguese and French. I think it's like 6 languages. And the name in English is
nice title.
Yeah, almost like your theater group name. Oh my god, I forgot, and I wrote the book with 12 other improvisers, and I forgot the name of the book. But the subtitle is Questions for Teaching Improv. Have you ever wondered if questions for teaching improv? And that's one of the questions that we raised, so people can think and see from their own reality. Like when you're using an emotional exercise, an emotion teasing thing,
tools, yeah.
Tools, are you do you have the ability, do you have the training, or you're just repeating something that was really good for you, but because there was somebody that knew how to do it when you did the exercise and a student. So be aware, because you have to know how to close that door.
Yeah, absolutely.
From my topics, we jump in them so well. The guys and the technicians in the group are saying like, I never saw Luana so excited because everybody's talking, and she's so exciting because everything's being answered without she asking. Yeah. So the main topics were there. We already discussed that. I want to put a new one because Aree said something that brought that up, and it was something that appeared in the chat of last week in Portuguese. The same for those that are watching. We have the same table with other professionals for an improv in Portuguese, and when Aree was saying like doing what the audience wants, and that can be like we go there and somebody from the audience raised the question like, does the audience direct the show, the improvised show as well? And I can share with you what we got as a group, but I really want to hear that from you. Does the audience of an improv show also direct the show, or should direct the show, if that is the question?
Yeah, I have some opinions. I think it's inevitable that they do. especially because most improvisers are comedians. Comedians are addicted to laughter. And if you get a laugh, you bet your sweet bottom somebody's going to try to get that same one again, whether it's an earned laugh, whether it's a highbrow laugh or a lowbrow laugh. You know, if I would like to think that we as performers are these enlightened beings, but one of the reasons that you perform in front of an audience is because you are taking the energy from that audience. And so if your audience is in a crude mood for the day, they're going to end up just sort of moving that scene towards the bathroom humor by what they choose to laugh at and what they choose not to laugh at. So I think it is absolutely inevitable that the audience is directing. If you can hear them and see them, they are absolutely participants in crafting how that improv scene is going to go. And especially when we are doing short form and we're asking them for suggestions, you know, inevitably someone's going to throw out something. And if you as the host or if you as the improviser take it, then you just gave them a little bit of control over what's about to happen on that stage. You know, you're like, oh, I heard potato is going to make a different scene than when you say, you know, I heard, I don't even want to go there, but you know what I'm saying. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's unavoidable that the audience will have an input to you as a director, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, I think. Like, and when you're doing improv, part of the directing is how much do we stay on this beat? How much should we be doing this kind of thing? And when you're doing a show, you get immediate feedback on whether it's still fun or is it time to move on. So sometimes it's actually during shows, these audience feedback makes you an easier director than when you are in a rehearsal. So that's one answer. But I know that there's a lot of other improvisers who would just take the audience energy and use it to do whatever they want. I think in the book by TJ and Dave, Improvisation at the Speed of Light, they say, like, we don't care what the audience wants us to do. We'll rob their energy and then we'll do what we want to do. I think that's also beautiful. So I think both ways, both ways takes the energy and then do whatever they want or do whatever they don't expect, are both pretty fun. As long as they don't steer you into things that are dangerous territories, like I gave an example earlier.
I also think the balance is very important, and as Don just mentioned, it's a much more visible in a short forms. When the audience have this feeling that they have this really huge impact on your show, that the long forms for me are kind of much more focused on performance, but performance, people who perform anyway. But also I think it's nice to feel that energy, but also don't. We training to do a show. They can't do the same because they can't jump from the seats, audience seats, and do the same because they're not able to do that because it's a hard work, obviously. So let them be a part of the show, but I think it's nice to have this balance, not kind of take over, because it's not about that. People coming to the theater to see something different, to see this beautiful package. If they think they can do better, they can just improvise in the house, in front of the television or whatever, with the glass of beer or whatever. But they make an effort, they pay for the tickets, they want to see something different. So let them have a part because it's the improvisation, but also show them that we give you this balance. We kind of showing you a different word. Theatrical word. This is my view.
That's really amazing. My solo show, I actually steal a lot of things from the audience without them knowing. I actually steal movements from the audience. I just watch them and start miming them, and that becomes a dance. So I steal a lot of energy and movements from the audience. They don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not gonna give it back. That's mine. But what I mean, when I did my solo for the first time, and it was in Brazil, I did for an audience that doesn't see improv, didn't have improv shows in my city or long form improvs anyway. And so when they saw like improvisation, they went with a feeling that they would say something and I would have to do whatever they wanted. So I have a lot of issues with the audience, like demanding from me that I would do something. Uh, and that balance was really broken that way. Because, and in the end of the show, I had like experienced professional people from theater that went with that and said like, but if you're doing improvisation, you put yourself in risk. That's what you want. It's like, I want to play. Playing means that I will play and you will play. That should be fair. Not, I'm not your little monkey that is jump now, go there, and that's not what it is. That's not
Do
what I
object
want.
work. Do object
Yeah,
work.
yeah, go, be funny, cry.
Yeah,
No.
we know they're puppets. We know they're,
Yeah,
you know, we are not marionettes on the strings, like, you know,
and
we
that's
need to, this
actually
is a communication. Oh, what's happened?
no. Okay. The okay, we continue. Want her back. Uh, okay, I'm lost. Oh, come back.
Yeah, I just gonna continue. We not, of course, we can't be a treat as a puppet of our audience. We need to have this nice, again, communication. This is very important. So this is not Roman, you know, I don't know how you call this, Roman gladiator, yeah, like, you know.
Yeah, die.
We are 21st century. It's a communication. It's a dialogue with the audience. So yeah. We.
She's back.
Yes, she's back.
Yes.
Yes, she's back.
Nice. We are still in the issue. So when I realized with the solo moment and talking with people after, and like the idea of the show must go on, right? Anyway, and like you're bleeding, you broke your arm, and it should be beautiful and doing the show. I understood in that moment that I can't just fucking leave the theater, because if you don't want to play with me, like play with me, like I don't want to play with you, right? Things like that. But that becomes like, okay, how I communicate, as Kasia was saying. From the privilege, say, Aree, please.
No, go on. I was just having. I think like sometimes the audience thinks they want to see something, but they would be even happier with something unexpected.
Yeah, because they are also repeating, and that's the moment of the crowd that like if people are laughing now, I am laughing as well, even if I don't think that it's so funny, but it's just it's happening. It's the crowd power, and the awareness goes away sometimes with that. What we talked about in the previous table in Portuguese last week was really, I love how this path went from Dawn to Aree and Kasia. That was like, okay, yes, and yes, and this also, right? It went that direction. And it came pretty much near what we are talking and the last table, that the audience will participate for sure. The audience, it's needed for the show for sure. But directing, making the choices, I will choose if I would take that suggestion and how I would take that suggestion, because we are trained and we know the direction of the show, and we are also playing here. Our willing is also part of it. It's not more or less in that, depending on the show for sure, but it's yes, this is the craft and everything. And so the audience can be the thermometer, as Aree was saying, like also they are laughing, so or Don as well, like, oh, so we are going to this direction of laughing, and the thermometer is saying something to us. But if you think about theater in general, any kind of theater, the audience is always participating in that same thermometer, in the same way. The intensities of the participation can be different, the levels of participation, but they will laugh, they will breathe, they will move on the chair. And if you are performing and you are aware of what's going on, that thermometer will help you to also dimming and the little directions that the play needs for that day to adjust for that day as well. So from that perspective, I understand saying that yes, participating and the intensity and opening for the participating can change, and I can be more open to take those suggestions as directions, but I am making that choice to take those suggestions as directions.
Yes. I think also this depends of the word. It depends of how about the skills as well, because the practice is very important, and it will be different for group who existing 2 years on and doing improv, and it's different for group who just improvise for 10 years. So again, the timing, the practicing, the knowledge, the skills is very important. So for example, person who's doing improv for 2 years and he will be a part, or she part of the show, take probably this this inspiration from audience, like someone who just training for 10 years don't understand, or just said why this is completely out of space. But we also need to be aware of that. That's normal. That's the world, that we have a different groups and
that's part of the communication.
Absolutely. And also communication with the audience, because some audience like this kind of type of communication with them. So we also, as a group, as an ensemble, when we're working together, we make this level of communication with our audience. We choosing what kind of words we're using, what kind of inspiration we're taking from them. We kind of teach them as well to communicate, or to be aware of our performances. Like when I was starting improv in my city, Bydgoszcz, yeah, very hard to pronounce, we was the first improv group in my city. So was no community in my city. So we teach our audience. We have this place for 260 seats. We start for 30 audience. Now we have, obviously now it's pandemic situation, but now we have an improv international festival. So we build this community, and this is very important as you, as part of ensemble, as a director, to teach the audience as well. This is very important, special when the field is empty, when you just start implement improv in your city.
Yeah, and that's so cool. Go on.
And I'm just really intrigued about this idea of taking responsibility for teaching your audience how to be an audience. So, you know, the improv that I do sits somewhere in between stand-up comedy and rehearsed theater. That's sort of the American model, I think. I don't know if that's true elsewhere. And so the way that you behave when you're seeing stand-up comedy is different than the way you behave when you're watching a rehearsed play. And it's also different than the way that you behave when you're watching an improvised piece of work. And so I'm really toying and sort of marinating on this idea that part of our responsibility when they walk in the door is like, this is how you play with us. This is what happens here. So it's not this and it's not that, it's this. And we're going to work with you so that you know how to be in a good improv audience. And I love that idea. It's something I'm really going to simmer on. I like that frame. Thank you.
Yeah, and a good improv audience for this show, and because that's also that happened to me. What you're saying, that when I went to United States and spent almost 6 months taking classes and watching like a lot of shows as much as I could, and I was like, oh my God, the audience knows what's going on. Because in Brazil, I had to teach the game every time. And that's not a problem. That's not a bad thing at all. But it was different. It was like, oh, they know they understand the swipe right away. They understand the codes. They know the codes. It's not like I had to do once and 2 times and the third time, so people in my audience will understand by the patterns and repetition what is going on. They already know what's going on. The tag, it's really amazing. And with that, are we aware of that? What kind of audience are we having? So when we break those codes that they know so much, they will still be with us in our game, in our show, in the way that we are performing. I felt a little bit like that when I performed in Norway, because in the end of the show, I don't know, Aree, you can say more about the community, but at the end of the show, people was like, yeah, I perform in I performed in a festival in Belfast, and it was an improv festival, and in the end, the host said like, and that was improvised. And I was like, we need to say that in an improv festival, like, because my way of doing improv is really that different. That's, I don't know. It's a learning also to listen to your audience and not just go, because in those moments I went for the audience that I know, and these are not the audience that I know.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what kind of theater you are. So you would have theaters that cater to a lot of rolling people. So sort of like, let's say, theaters for tourists. They come in, they see a show, and then they never come back to that city. So you have theaters like that, and those tend to be like quick, fun, short form games, very accessible. And then you also have theaters where you would have a community that builds upon, and then they start to understand certain codes, and they start to know, oh, that was a beautiful takeout. Yeah. In when you were in Norway, we were more closer to those communities where people know the conventions of our improv. But we're also aware when we're making certain special shows that cater to a lot of first-time improvisers, that these are the codes, these are what's gonna happen. This is how you would be an audience with us. So yeah, it's really about knowing your audience, or communication, as Kasia would say.
Yes, and also I think that's the beauty of the international festivals, that you can bring a completely different type of improv. And you also, I just can say about my city, we are not a huge city in Poland, but because we invite a very different type of improv people, the audience can see variety of these. In Polish, improvisers can see a variety. And it was a super funny thing, because like I think 3 years ago, we invite Alan Cox from England, from the Globe Theatre. They're doing improvised Shakespeare. And some of Polish improvisers, they said that's not improv. That's not improv. No, absolutely. I'm not. And this is amazing, like, people kind of even don't accept, because it's so different, so difficult, because the line was the rhyme, like a Shakespeare, obviously. So they couldn't understand like how you can do this, like, but obviously you can. And this is amazing of improv, that you can use this variety. And the beauty of the improv festivals, it's you can see this kind of nice, I don't know how, the fun, like you can just, have this different type of improv, and accept that it's fantastic that it's not only your way, it's
so are you saying yes and to other kinds of improv? It's interesting.
But I would also add, I think that's why it's fun to study with different improv instructors. So just as going to a festival, you can see all the different ways that people like to play together. you can study with different teachers, join different groups, and get other little pieces of the puzzle that you can add to your toolkit. I think that's also important.
Yeah,
Spice it
diversity,
up,
right?
spice it up. Yeah.
Spice it up.
Yeah.
Diversity. That should, yeah. I think we are in a good time to open for the chat and people that from the audience participate. Maybe not direct, maybe direct a little bit and participate of this chat.
That's pretty awkward if we say no audience does not, change us at all, and then let's open the floor for the audience.
That's how we do it. But this is a chat, not an improvised show. So people that are here on Zoom that want to ask a question or make a comment or something that we said as well, please just type in the chat. Like, I have a question, I want to do a comment, or in people that are on YouTube right now, just write in the chat, and V, one of our technicians, volunteer, is going to send us the question. So just type, and on Zoom, we're going to open your mic and camera when you ask to do your question. Henrique from our technicians has a question. Please send me the question, not just say that I have a question. Okay, go Henrique, and then Paul.
Okay, so my question is, because we do very often talk about having the tools to improvise and try to make them as natural as possible, in the sense of being able to access that without having to go inside of your mind looking for it. My question is if, in a way, we are looking for the same process in terms of directing the scene. And so we are trying to internalize how and when should we be directing the scene and make it a natural process. So even having this bird view from above, it wouldn't take us the time to go through that and then go back to the scene, in the sense of preserving this be here, listen, react, instead of overthinking.
Yeah, I think it's whenever you take yourself out of the scene for too long and think about it in a bird's eye view, and then you come back to the scene. Okay, so this is what you're gonna do. Blah 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 blah. It means that you're directing too much. You're putting in a little bit too big a piece that tries to push the story in certain ways. So my short answer would be, even when you're directing, think also just like what is the next beat, instead of finishing the entire novel. Because if you finish, if you say, okay, this is the scene, this is how the end of the scene is gonna be, then the scene is not fun to play with anymore. You already know where it's going.
Yes, and I would sort of add that living in that question is the improviser's challenge. How do I stay present and be in this moment and keep track of what's going on? When I first started playing with From the Top, which does an improvised musical, I felt like I was learning how to drive stick shift for the first time, or how to drum, right? Like put my right foot, and and eventually from practice, it becomes that dual brain. Because one of the things that you'll hear improvisers say all the time is like, oh God, I got in my head too much, and that's bad. But you don't want to not be in your head at all. So I had a coach who sort of presented it like, make your brain an equal part of your art with the rest of your body. It's not more important than your elbow or your leg, but it's not less important either. And that's the metaphor that I like to use. Yeah, use your head, just don't use it to the exclusion of the rest of your skills. So your heart, for example, Aree. So yeah, I think that's just living in that question is the challenge of being an improviser.
And as Dawn said, practicing. I agree with the musical. Absolutely, it's like a drum playing, but also I think kids show. Children are really kind of mirroring what's going on and which direction you're going. So the fantastic audience are children who are really giving you straight away the feedback, and you know which direction you should go, because you can't cheat on children, not at all.
Peter Brook does that. I think it's the Open Door, his book, The Open Door. He tests his shows with children. So like if they lose the attention, okay, something has to change.
Yes.
Thank you, Enrique. Let's see. Paul is the next one in line for question, comment. Hi, Paul. Yeah.
Hello.
Wow.
So the question would be, how do you, as performers, try to stay ahead of the audience so they're catching up to you and you're smarter than them, you're leading them on a journey, but also at the same time giving them what they want. So giving them, oh, I want to see this, and then you get the expected stuff, but also surprising them.
First of all, what a voice.
Okay. Our face? No?
Your voice. Yeah. I'm going to be a broken record, but I do believe it's living in that question. The question of how much fan service do you want to do and how much creativity do you want to bring? And I think Kasia sort of pointed to that. We're the trained professionals here. And someone in the chat said they think they know what they want, but do they really? And so as an audience member, my greatest delights are when I do get surprised. Like I'm sitting in there thinking, oh, this is that thing where this happens, and then it doesn't. I'm like, oh, I get all tickled. And so I don't think we want to deprive the audience of that wonderful delight of thinking that you know what's going to happen and then finding out something else turned up instead. So again, just living in that question of honoring where they're leading you, but not giving them full reins.
Okay, Christine.
Hello. I had a question of how do you think we could educate the audience, especially when you don't have like the opportunity to play a very specific show, but you have like several shows in a row, and maybe the shows before are maybe a bit more comedic, and then yours is a bit more theatrical, and then very often they're like, oh, so where was the improvisation, you know?
I think we live in the 21st century. We have the Facebook and all this advertisement stuff. We can also do a trailer, do a description of your show. Tell your audience what it will be about, what kind of journey we're planning to take the audience. It's also about advertising as well, about telling them that this is for example, long form with some much more deeper journey or light stuff, whatever. I think this is also important to tell them honestly what we are trying to sell, because if you just say, oh, that will be a long form, fun, blah blah, but they coming and they gonna see what they not expect at all, they don't gonna come back. We need them to come back. We need to give them kind of this honest description, the honest trailer. Like you see the movie, sometimes you think it's an honest trailer, but it's not, obviously. It's crap. Yeah, but especially in the theater, it's nice to give them that, to be honest with them.
Yeah, as an audience member, I would like that. So as a performer, I will give that.
I think it's really important the intro that you do to your set and establishing what kind of tones that you will be playing. I know a lot of improv troops that come in and say, like, we are going to play from our hearts. It might be funny, it might be sad, but it's always from the heart. And if you have a certain things that are scripted or some rigid structures to your show, then it's also that's the time you establish this part is not, this part is set, and these parts are improvised.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. So let's hear now from Fenyar Ortali.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? My question is very simple and direct, and I would like to know what specific exercises do you use to practice the director side of your improviser?
That was a beautiful setup. Did you plant? You're like, hey, ask the question.
I just want to say I love recording the rehearsals, to a recording scene, to just and after we watching together to see what's going on and what we can change. Sometimes I'm doing kind of side coaching, like side directing. This is also nice, but special games. Have to think about that.
I'm wondering too, Kasia, if just your team's model of of taking turns might be the simplest answer to developing that side. That might be the most straightforward way.
Yeah, give them. Yeah, absolutely. Give them also try this. Yeah, give them walk with your shoes for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Glory, then I say it.
I think a lot of short form games have inbuilt directorial sense in them, like basically you have like platform, tilt, resolution. Those are the directorial moves, right? And one of the game that I really like the most is repeating the same scene and doing it in a shorter time. You do an entire fairy tale and then you reduce it. You do it again in 2 minutes. You do it again 1 minute, and then you do it Cinderella in 3 seconds. What is it?
Yeah.
That's a fun game, but as an exercise itself, it's really nice to do like a scene and then you go back and so what are the beats in the scene? If you replay that and condense them to the important bits, those are usually the directorial moves.
But I also think that we can't forget that we improvisers. So the most important is the teamwork. We directing, but we also need to focus on team building, about the energy of the group. Because when we don't have these skills, how to balance with this energy of our own group, any directing skills doesn't help.
Yeah, because we're talking here specific about the director skills, but we are acting and writing at the same time. So it's not stopping everything to exercise the directing. It's how because we have to also learn the balance of that, right? So I think the exercise should think about that as well. In my book. No, I was actually going to talk what is in my book as a reference. Gosia from Poland as well. She has a workshop called Self-Directing because she comes from the cinema studies. And one thing, I did a class with her, and one thing that I brought to my book as well with her permission, it's also like watch plays, watch movies, read books, and ask yourself what you like of the choices that were made, not just the story as well, because that's gonna help you with improv because you're right. But ask yourself what was the movements there, the choices that were made by the director, by the direction that took that you like, and how you can apply that to improv. And in other improv shows what you like about it, and so recognize that so you can repeat, but repeat as always as something new that makes sense. And which part to repeat, you don't need to repeat all the stuff because it's the combination of the things in the moment that will bring your show as a unique and thing in the moment.
Just be human, I think. And also if we're talking about improv, we can't be like horses who have this, we need to just see much more bigger picture, and we need to take some nice histories from different fields. And this is beauty of improv, that we are in 1,000 layers and each of us is different. Each of us have this different hobbies, different interests. And this is amazing. And the most important, be human.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout on the collaborative part and not like taking your role too much. And I saw Kasia did a show once, And then they had a scene, and then she came in as a coffee machine. And she stood there for a good 3 minutes just being a coffee machine. And that served the scene so well. That's a great directorial move that really adds to the scene. And it's very collaborative with everyone.
It's a choices, absolutely. You know, you not always have to be in the front. It's nice to be a partner. This is beauty of
Yeah, one of the beautiful
improv.
things, most beautiful things that I watch in a show for a team was in Belfast Improv Festival, and I don't know, there was 8 people in the team, and just 6 of them played that. All the 8 were there, but just 6 joined the stage. The other 2 did sound, did something, but they didn't feel for the show that they should go on stage, that they needed to go on stage. I don't know that actually what happened, but when I watch it, like, because we have 8 players, so 8 players should play everything because they should play, and not like what's going on, what are we creating? Do we need that person to come do right? Let's making those choices as well. And it's really brave in that matter not to jump in on stage as well, right?
Yeah.
Again, if you're learning, maybe jumping is something that you need for you to learn the levels of things.
Yeah. I saw this video on YouTube. Is it Fuck That Shit or one of the other New York teams, where they had a scene, and then one of the character was a very interesting character, and this is like a Herald team of 8 people. But because it was so interesting, the next player in the Herald team comes in to highlight the first person, and then the third person comes into to highlight the first person, and then it was basically a collaborative director move of the group, saying like, you know what, this, we might have put ourselves as Herald, but this is more fun. We're not gonna scrap this Herald out and just gonna enjoy whatever's in there.
Oh, that makes me remember another exercise that's really cool. As an improviser, to understand the formats, and also will help you with your director side, it's playing the format of your group by yourself. You're being the only player and having to do everything, so you can understand the structure and how the choices will impact. It's hard, it's funny, it's hard again, and you'll learn a lot from that. Just doing the Herald by yourself, whoa, it's really hard. We have a question from YouTube from this person that we didn't talk about him here. Rich Baker, I think is his name. The wonderful Rich Baker, teacher, improviser, human being. He asked, is improv entertainment the way you perform it, or is it something else? It's improv entertainment the way you perform it, or it's something else?
Can you repeat the question?
Is improv entertainment the way you perform it, or it's something else that it brings the entertainment? That's how I understood it.
I think each of us have the different way of acting, of performing on the stage, and I think when you watch your colleagues, because you know them, you practice with them, you can enjoy what you see. But and again, during the festivals, you can see completely different techniques of playing, and sometimes it's really entertaining, and sometimes it's just, this is not my style, maybe, but it's nice to see that and to be aware of this style. And I'm not sure if I'm answering correct, or this is, but I just think when I hear that kind of question, usual when you have your own ensemble and you just practicing, you like this type of performing, and because you choose to be with them, you like this type of humor, this type of way to performing, and so that's why it's entertaining from ourselves. sometimes we have a good and bad days. And even my teacher in drama teacher said that, you know, you have to, when you're going on the stage, you have to leave your own thoughts, your personal thoughts away and be present at the moment, of course. But we are only humans. And, you know, sometimes when my mother will be in hospital and I have a show, it's kind of implement me, which is that beauty of the and power of the stage and performances, that every show, even scripted one, is different. Because we are only humans and we have a different energy, and again, audience energy and our energy just, you know, stick together. And of course, if we are professionalists, we know how to balance with this. And again, that's the personal taste of people who using this improv skills on the stage, if you enjoy your acting or not. This is my opinion.
There is, it's not, I'm not gonna answer about entertainment, but I think it's the same way of thinking. When I used to teach improv at college, the thing like improv as comedy, just related to comedy, always came from my students. And that was, I always answer like, it's the energy that you put it that we make comedy or not. And it's like, yeah, because comedy is fast, comedy is surprise element, it's like that. Those are tools, they can help, but it's more the way and the energy that you put on them. Like I always use the example of when people say like, you have the element of surprise. I give the Star Wars example, like, look, I'm your father. Like in that moment, right now, if you watch it because of the style of acting, we'll say we're gonna laugh. But yeah, but at the time was like, it's such a shocking surprise that it's not funny, right? And it's an element of surprise. And I have this exercise that I do with students, like, is the dialogue, is being fast. Okay, let's try it. So I'm gonna do with Aree here. We're gonna say, Aree, can you say to me, Luana, I love you? Just that.
Luana, I love you.
I don't. And that's one thing. Can you say it again, please?
Luana, I love you.
I don't. Is there the same speed? Is the same dialogue? Is the same people and the interaction? And those are choices. And we go again to choices.
I would like to, yes, sorry. Go on.
I just want to add really quickly that I think that we're in a moment with improv where we have the opportunity to create it as its own separate form of entertainment that is worthy of its own place in the entertainment community. I think, at least in the US, improv has often been used as a tool to get to a sketch, right? So you improvise until you get a sketch and then you do the sketch. Or the way that I learned improv initially was improvising around characters and then you take it to the scripted work. I think there's definitely an opportunity that no, improvisation is its own entertainment world and art form in and of itself to serve itself. And I think we as improvisers who are active in this moment really have an opportunity to lift the art form to a level that it just hasn't been recognized in the past, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, again, it's effort, how much we kind of giving. Because if we don't give a shit about our audience, about our partners, it's just be a crap. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have more questions from the chat, from the YouTube people? Let me know. But I'm just going to share something else while we wait for questions. A little bit about what Fania also asked for the exercise. So the 4 tools that I noticed that can help us to practice this director eye, and again, they are related to the writing, they are related to the acting. It's not, you cannot separate, because it's not, I know sometimes people say like, we are 33% actors, we have 33% writers. No, we are doing, and sometimes we are doing more acting drills, and that is not an exact math, right, Aree? That is a scientist. It's not that exactly.
I was like, how could you not add up to 100%?
Yeah. So it's recognition and repetition. They will help. The repetition will help you recognize your patterns and things that you bring in your references, and what you're doing on stage. And recognition will help you repeat it, so they were gonna be there. And what's gonna help you with repetition, recognition, would be exercise that use opposition and balance, so you can recognize and choose to repeat or break the repetition. And so, Holly Laurent has, from the United States, she has a great exercise she calls yin yang, that is just simplifying here, is like in one scene, you see the scene picture, how people are, the position of people on stage. So you are here. And so the next scene has to be in an opposite position. And maybe people go here, but maybe people go here, or maybe one go here and other goes here. So you start playing with dynamics and think, oh, I can do other things. And opposition will help you see that and make other choices. They're not just repeating what you saw as a mechanism of learning. So those are the four previous tools that can help us practice this a little more. But I think that Kasia said, like, communication, because doing that and not talking about it, it's not gonna work, right? I think that's actually the issue. I think we practice our director eye in a way. I think we could do more. But the thing is, we don't talk about it, so that just got invisible in the training and the studying of improv. So, like, I wrote for some of you as guests, and not just from this table, like, do you want to talk about the director side of the improviser? And some answers that I got were, I'm not a director. And I had to, like, no, as improvisers, you direct. Oh, yeah, yes. And I think this kind of the first thing is because we don't talk about this side, we just say that we have it. And that's pretty much it. We don't have any more questions. So this is the time of Kasia, Aree, Dom. If you have something else to say about the topic, please do, and share that we didn't cover any questions. And also you can sell your fish, your bread, your things here as well. I did it, so you can do it.
I'll revisit the last question about whether improv is entertainment. I think when it was on the stage here in Oslo, it was very much entertainment and how you entertain the crowd. But since moving on to online, whether you like it or not, I find myself with zero audience first. And then I find myself, why am I doing improv for? And I do find it still worthy to do something, to do improv. It is just an art that I really enjoy. And suddenly removing this audience out, you realize, like, yes, it's still something for me, even though it's not entertainment.
That's really beautiful. I really loved a couple of comments that were in the chat that I don't think people on YouTube can see. Enrique said, Frank once said something about games. Games are based and used to understand and practice human behavior. And I love that. Like, one of the reasons why we do improv is to explore the limits and the ups and downs of human behavior. Especially in ways that you just can't bring to the office necessarily, and improv is a great way to play with that. And then Christine said, I love the common theme of responsibility of presenting the theater, responsibility to take care of everyone in the cast, responsibility of choices, of teaching the audience. And yes, I agree 100%. That was one of my takeaways from this conversation. Really is that I would even say it's almost a sacred responsibility. It sounds a little highfalutin, like we're artists in a theater, but I do believe that it can be a sacred art form because people are entrusting you with their hearts. They're opening up their lives, and you are taking away some of their time. And to take responsibility for that as a as a duty, a sacred duty, I think is not exaggerating. I really do. I think there's an exchange there that is to be respected. So I agree with Christine on that one.
I also agree, and I would like to say that obviously we're not born directors straight away. That's we need a lot of practice, and of course each of us is in different time zone with our improv. And special, this is some sentence for new ones, for new members of our community, that don't be afraid. We are not born directors, and we not straight away learn how fantastic show should be and what kind of balance. We don't know that straight away. It's a lot of practice, and again, communication. We need to talk to each other. We need to be aware that if we would like to direct something, we have our partners, stage partners. We again, yeah, we are responsible, but we also need this communication, not only with ourselves, but with the ensemble, with the audience. Sometimes it's nice to ask the audience, what would you like to see? Because at first they're gonna say, yeah, I want to see toilets, I want to see in the graveyard, whatever. But really you would like to see that? Think again. So just also educate each other, educate ourselves, themselves and ourselves. Yeah, plural.
Yeah, I think that it's a beautiful thing also to remember that Kasia brought, like learning and also practicing improv professionally. Mistakes are gonna happen. They are actually welcome. We're gonna learn and create so much beautiful things with them. It's about what you do with them, that it's the responsibility, not to save people, not to redeem humankind, but from that moment, what happened in that moment with people that were there with you, because you're part of that as well.
But if we happened to redeem humankind, that would be okay too.
Yeah. Okay, I can maybe.
So I want to take this opportunity to pitch that, I do a lot of work on the Unscrewed Theater page on Facebook. So if you're interested in continuing these conversations about improv, I do 10-minute scenes with improvisers from around the world. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to play at some point. And then we have conversations like this afterwards. And so I would just love to do that little bit of self-promotion before we finished off. You can find me at Dawn Thinks on Facebook and Instagram, and then come see my theater, Unscrewed Theater.
So improv and communication, that makes sense with all the talk. Aree, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna pitch our Oslo online improv workshops, because I think this is a beautiful time for us to share different kind of improv throughout the world. So we hold workshops on Saturday morning Europe time, which is open and free for the world, and we have visitors from Asia. It's really fun. So check us out, Saturday morning Oslo improv workshops.
And you do those in English, Aree?
We do it in English, yeah.
And that's also, Aree has a map with which countries he improvises for each country, and he needs more people from Africa, South America, Latin America in general, and yeah, but he's really fun, and it's improvise. I already been
help
part
him
of it.
fill out his map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kasia, do you want to share something about your work?
At the moment, I'm doing everything in Polish, so it would be hard for you to just follow. Anyway, but I just take whatever you like, and yeah, Luana have a great workshop so far, I know. And yeah, enjoy your life, enjoy your groups, and have fun, and just leave and have fun.
Thank you so much, you all, Kasia, Aree, and Dawn. Thank you also, Henrique, Davi, and Massa. They're doing the technical things. for us. People that are watching us on the chat, on YouTube, and here on Zoom as well. Thank you for the participation. Remember, my book's there, and it's about this topic, and you can find on my website. You can just text me and like where I can write, and I send you the link. There's 5 different prices because these are crazy times, so you can choose which one it's okay for you. And I'm here to talk more about it. Like if you watch this conversation later and have other questions, you can talk to me. I can send the questions to people that are here as well, and we do that bridge. And let's communicate. Let's talk. Let's share, and let's enjoy this online connection that we can have to meet and talk and listen to these wonderful people. The next table will be next week, Sunday as well, the same hour. And it's going to be in Spanish with Fenia Ortali, Lorna Silva, and Mariana Palau. So really good as well. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy, so thankful. Yay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And I'm trying to